Hello, everybody. Welcome to this amazing joint webinar with CII, IWN, and FBN all put together. I have an absolute amazing set of panelists here with me who capture the depth and breadth of business experience, industries, and they all happen to be women. So this is a fantastic time to go through some of the unique situations that COVID-19 has propped up. Thank you very much for joining. We are going to wait a couple of minutes to make sure all participants and all attendees are in. If you have any questions, we really want you to ask them. Please ask them in the Q&A box, and we'll take it from here. And so while we're waiting for everyone to join, I'm just going to sort of, how are things going? How is everything going? Devi, would like to kick us off, please?
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you very much for inviting us all. And I think everything's going well so far. I think everybody is trying to make the most of the time that they have in hand. And it's not such a tough situation as it seems, but there are a lot of things that people are dealing with. So I think we're all doing well. Every industry has their own phase and own time. So I think we being in education, we're looking at a lot of things because we're in education. So things are going well.
Fantastic. Pratimaji, how are things with you?
We are a manufacturing company. So, all our setup in India, at least, has all shut down because of COVID. But then we're spending about 6 hours on video conference. We are planning and we're doing mapping work. So I think it's a different self. So things that you couldn't do every day, you have enough time to do that now.
Fantastic. So hopefully little room to take a step back and maybe see some of the things that we miss while we end up going on the day-to-day operations.
Right. Absolutely.
Priyanka ji, please, how's everything with you?
So for us, we're in the travel and tourism industry, which of course all of you would know is amongst the worst hit industries right now, with aviation completely at a halt. Only right now I was watching news where Air India is expected to fly internationally starting in June. But I think these COVID times are going to have a lot of new learnings for all of us. So like Pratimaji said, we are spending a lot of time on Zoom trainings. It's actually opened up a new world to us on how we can virtually train a lot of people. We are spending a lot of time in data upgradation, in upgradation of our own knowledge, utilizing the time at work to its best, coming up with a lot of work from home kind of things which most of us weren't so used to. And I think for most of, for all the women who have been working, this has opened up a new scenario of working from home and trying to balance the work and home balance while working from home. So it's kind of thrown new challenges and it has thrown new ideas, which all of us will learn to live with.
I can completely understand. And, travel and tourism is so badly impacted. And I think we are going to see that reverberation happening for a few months now. So a little bit difficult times, but I'm glad you're able to, see the silver lining and hopefully take advantage of some of the unique opportunities that this pandemic has pushed out. Sure. So I think we have a sizable number of people who've joined. So let's get right into it. Big number one question that everybody's trying to ask. COVID-19, the lockdown, the response worldwide in India, it's had an impact on all sectors, everyone, all sections of society, and we've all pulled together as a nation. But one of the big things which I want to get your understanding of, has it impacted women and women-led businesses differently? Has there something about our society, the way the lockdowns have happened, the way COVID-19 is done, that has changed things? And are you seeing a disproportionate impact? Are you seeing it's very similar? Or are there more nuances that you are seeing that perhaps are not obvious if you would just think of as India as an integrated whole? Pratimaji, would love to sort of kick us off on that.
So I think, there are advantages and disadvantages. While our manufacturing setup is closed, that's a huge disadvantage. But I think being a woman and from a woman's perspective, it has opened new doors, new avenues. I think today women can actually learn a whole new skill sitting at home. They, in any case, multitask. And what happens is when you are home, You can look after your children, you can look after your work, you can participate in conferences which are held remotely, you can network with people, and you actually can do some bit of marketing, knowledge sharing. So I think it's a very cost-effective time for even entrepreneurs who are doing online businesses. While the online businesses may not work thoroughly because you can't deliver the product, you're able to make a customer connect. So I think it's a very nice time for women of all ages. You know, I can see older women participating. What's happened is Zoom has changed our world. Zoom has become the new world. And there are enough elderly women, you know, who have amazing talent for cooking, lectures, content building. And I think they can come online with Zoom, they can connect up with people and actually communicate. So I think it's a whole new world that has got created.
I'm glad for the great positive and enriching attitude. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we are seeing people who are doing story times and, now people taking online classes, and suddenly all those skills that a lot of women had sitting at home, they can share with the world. I think that's a remarkably positive. For the participants who have just joined, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Our panelists would absolutely love to get your questions. If you'd like a general question, please ask a general question. If you'd like a question pointed toward a particular panelist, please, put their name in, and so we can give a very specific direction. Divya, your thoughts?
Thank you, Aditya. I think they're very tough times that we're going through, Aditya. I'm sure a lot of industries are facing a lot of problems. They're not going to be easy to deal with. But like Pratima ji said, it's a great opportunity for women at this point to be able to work from the house. And I really hope that this corporate culture continues, so that corporates do understand that even after all this is over, the women can work from the house. It would be a big help for them. But basically, these times are tough that we have to make the most of it. We're in education, so I think we just see things like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, everything has existed before, but nobody has used it before, you see. So it's absolutely a new way of learning. People are learning new techniques. They're just revisiting themselves. They're all learning. They all know their different modes of learning. And I think we are all getting to a point where I think everybody used to say the world has become so small, everybody's going to be together. We're actually going to see that, and let's make the most of it. So I think it's a great time for women. And I think for everybody just has to make the most of this situation, because I'm sure a lot of people are going through very tough times, whether it comes to their businesses. I'm sure whether it's a professional woman or it's a woman in a small startup, she still has to pay her rent, she still has to pay salaries. It's not easy to survive. Everybody is revisiting what they have to do with their businesses, restructure, rethink. But I think it's the best time to try and think and see what one can do at this time.
Absolutely. And you know, what I love is I would have never gotten you three, given your busy schedules, in a room to do this. So I think this is a tremendous opportunity, given the distance and time and what everybody's doing. So absolutely. I mean, it has enabled us to do things like this, right?
And because I see a sector which is very women dominated as well. I see women managing all sorts of things, like Pratima ji said, whether it's home, whether it's work, whether it's managing your kids schedule and teaching. So hats off to them, you know.
Absolutely. Priyanka ji, your thoughts?
So, you know, where I see it, of course, when it comes to businesses, this is definitely not impacting one differently than the other, you know. Be it men-led businesses or women-led businesses, all of us are equally affected, because all businesses, everything is affected, stands completely still right now. What I think is, the kind of society we all belong to, which is more patriarchal, where, most of the times when it comes to household responsibilities and houses, we still are very far from not thanking the men of the house when they help, right? It's almost, it's taken that you're bringing up the children, their homework, their schoolwork, you know, when we are having Zoom classes, Zoom interactions, so are they. So the whole house, is on Zoom, where kids are doing Zoom classes. We're all doing our Zoom calls. We have our webinars. All of us who otherwise were super organized with the way our houses were working with, the vegetables and the fruits. Now that is again a new management skill, where you have to make sure that tomorrow, when you're not going to be able to source vegetables from your usual guy, the house has to be running. So I think in that sense, I'm sure this is definitely tougher on women, than men. But yes, but when it comes to the working sector, I don't think businesses are affected any differently. They're the same. Probably, I feel the women-led businesses, they would have more of compassion. I mean, I feel it personally when I am trying to call one of my guys and I find out he's helping at home with his child or has gone out grocery shopping. I'm kind of easier as a woman boss, probably better than what a male boss would be. But otherwise, all of us, men, women, entrepreneurs, working anywhere, all of us are fairly in the same boat, and learning to deal with the times and making the most of it, and looking at more and more positive outcomes rather than looking at the low down and low side of it.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on you on that. You know, is it that all women bosses, all women entrepreneurs are super awesome and compassionate, or is it just that you are a great person and you happen to be a woman?
So I believe in women for women, so and I also always have had this huge grudge about men having your bro code, whereas we women not having it. So for the sake of all my women and all my women around the world, in the city, in the country, in the neighborhood, I would say all women bosses are awesome.
Well, thank you for being absolutely sure that. I am going to circle back to that. But one thing which we sort of haven't covered, and most of us, when we think of work, when we think of India, we are still very much caught up in the entrepreneurship stuff, in white collar workers. But one of the big things that's happened is blue collar work, and there has been struggles. We've seen, for example, we have healthcare places and hospitals, particularly where nurses have been recalled by their families saying, no, we don't want you to get exposed to COVID because you'll come back home and do something. Or we've had women who've migrated for a long distance. They've been trying to get back. But, there are lots of stories like this. But what I have a unique example with me, so I'm not going to let that go away. Pratima ji does, and I don't know if it's a pilot or if it's something that's standard across your companies, but I believe you have an all-female department. Could you just speak a little bit about that? What was the genesis, and some of the interesting learnings?
So, we have an all-women's company where we manufacture pumps, and it's in Kannur in South India. And what happens there is even the management roles are by women, and all the workers are women. So we have tried to incorporate them. Most of the workers are blue collar, they are 10th pass, and then we've given them a 8 months training and brought them on board. Now, it's an 8-year-old plant now, and we have 2 lines of working. So you have one, which is a faster line. And by the way, these girls have put together, they can assemble a pump in 17 seconds, and they made it to the Limca Book of Records. Wow. But beyond that, what's happened is that they nurture each other, and they nurture the whole, they can work cohesively in a large group. So, there's no competition. So I find what is important is that they understand that if the collective benefits, they benefit. And I think this is a very woman thing, to benefit the collective rather than the individual. And what happens is when you benefit the collective, you benefit yourself, you benefit your family, and everybody is upgraded. So while this plant was made, we assumed that there'll be a huge amount of attrition, which there was in the initial years. But in the subsequent years, one of them became a manager, and I said, wow, you're getting married, so you're going to leave. And she says, no, ma'am, I've asked my husband, he's going to relocate. So I said, that is a social change. Now that is the social change that most of these plants can do. And it leads me to the next thing is, these women have empathy for each other. They also collaborate while working. So instead of competing, they collaborate. Result is all the new women who come in, they teach them things. And I think in the long run, they can deliver far more value. At least there's a window right now for the next 10 years, because it's a very new thing for women to be able to work in a factory, and it gives them a whole lot of respect. I think we have a window of 10 years where women will work at that pace that they're working today. And, with the shutdown, I don't believe that they're going to leave anywhere. They are home, but they will come back, because these are workers of our company. They're not migrant workers, as it happens. So they do a lot of Kaizen as well. they write it down, they make it, and they showcase it. And I'm very proud of them.
That's absolutely wonderful. And I think, what I love it, this echoes what we've learned in a lot of countries, is that when you create women's self-help groups, when the government creates systems and plans where they go into villages, they always try to say, let's get a group of women to manage the microfinance. We've seen that in a number of both field trials as well as live large-scale implementations, is that if you can get a community of women to work together. And I think what's very interesting is that, particularly because they are all part of a local community as well, what they do at work has a huge impact on what happens there. And I love that you've been able to take things that have worked in microfinance and have worked in other things and actually deployed at a large scale manufacturing base. That is absolutely amazing. Divyaji, I want to go over to you. I mean, you guys have multiple construction sites happening across India right now. How are things going there? Would love to get your perspective.
Thank you, Aditya. Firstly, Pratima ji, that was very empowering. And I'm actually inspired, and I've actually got an idea from what you just said. So maybe I'll take some advice from you later offline. I would just like to say first, Aditya, the construction sites are of course not currently on, because of course it's a lockdown and none of them are working. But we did not send our workers away. We have about 5 to 6 construction sites where the wage workers are still there. All the construction workers are still there with their families. There are a lot of women, a lot of kids. So we're taking care of their families. We're making sure they're comfortable as they could not move out. In fact, I must say some of the governments have also come forward of the states, like Madhya Pradesh has been very helpful, very supportive. It's very nice to see the communities come together. Local gurdwaras and temples want to help you as much as they can and say, can we support you? So we are doing our best to make sure that all the people who are with us are taken care of. Also, not just them, even on our campuses, there are people who are staying. We have to make sure they are safe. How we're taking care of them is very important. We have helplines, etc., which I will maybe cover it at a later point when you discuss organizations. So we're trying our best to take care of whoever is with us at this point.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad that while the lockdown is happening, that governments are really pitching in to help. I think that gives us a lot of confidence that all of us are in together on this.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about something that Priyanka ji raised. We are all locked down at home, right? And that's completely changed the pace of how we structure our lives. And no matter what your family culture is, no matter what system you had running, all of it has suddenly had to be massively modified. I know that a lot of men are trying to step up. I know a lot of women are having to really, really adjust, right? And this being a women's talk, I'm going to focus a little bit on that rather than more on what the men are going through. But we're seeing a lot of women suddenly, they have to do their work. They're still, in many cases, managing the household. Their kids who are going to school are now sitting at home and taking online classes. Often they still have to manage the kids while taking the online classes, especially if they're small. They can't just leave them be, here's the headphones and I'll see you in 3 hours. We have often joint families where multiple members are locked in together. Many of us haven't experienced what that feels like for extended long periods of time. What can men do at this point? What can men do to support the women in their lives there? Because I know the women are doing a lot, but I'd love to get advice for pragmatic, practical things. There is the lip service, oh, men can step up, they can do blah, 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 they can help, they can, etc. But practically, if there are 2-3 things you would all say that this is, hey guys, if you can do this, this actually moves the needle. And I'll start off with Priyanka ji, since you sort of got the ball rolling on that.
Yeah. Sure, Aditya. I think one main thing that men can do, and which is a very cliche, and although you want not to say it, is be the backup, right? Most of us who are working, not working, whoever, I think, a man just being there and having a backup and being supportive makes all the difference. So most of us who are working out there, who have flourishing careers, will admit to this, that a lot goes to the man supporting them. And I'm not saying this because we still have 15 days of lockdown left.
And you
They'll
have to.
probably be listening to this at some, from somewhere. But they definitely need to be the backup, and they definitely need to be the support. When it comes to families, when it comes to being parents, I think what is very important to always remember is that the kids are not watching, they're not learning by listening to you, but they're learning by watching you, right? You cannot sit and instruct and tell them to chip in while you yourself are not chipping in, right? When I, as a working woman, as a working mom, I'm appreciating that everybody has their Zoom classes, or my husband has his calls, he has his webinars. So the respect for my webinar or my work has to start from my husband. So I think the start to the support comes from them, and the rest of it practically actually follows through. I mean, so I think one big thing that men can do is actually not only do the lip service, but actually do the little bit, show by example, lead by example, and that really would solve a lot of problems for a lot of us, because the rest of the family members just follow through.
Well, thank you for that. Two things. One, for all those who have joined, welcome, welcome. If you have any questions, please ask it in the Q&A. We love for you to keep questions on topic. I know many of you are taking this great opportunity to ask our industry stalwarts what's happening in their industry. If we could keep the focus on women and family business and that, would love those specific questions around that. And I also want to be clear, when we're talking about men, we're not just talking about husbands. We're talking about fathers, sons, brothers, boyfriends, any male influence, uncles, whoever exists as an influence in a person's life. Pratimaji, your thoughts?
I think men can help by just, as Priyanka rightly said, be there, because what children do is they observe. And if they're able to observe what you say, and if you can say what you mean and mean what you say and you do exactly the same thing, it's a value at the end of the day. You're imparting even a value. The other aspect I do believe is when women are home now, I think they're spending more time with their children. I think that's a very good thing, because in today's day and age, women are out of their homes for so many hours, and the work of looking after their children is delegated to an uneducated person. So automatically the values these children have are those of uneducated people sometimes, which is not such a great thing. What would be really good is, and I don't believe in this quality time business, because quality time from whose perspective? From your perspective or the child's perspective?
Right.
Because when you come home, you're tired, but the child's tired too, and maybe he's not ready for all the pearls of wisdom you're going to dish out for the child. So I think children observe 24/7, 365 days, and you need to be there and do the right thing by them while they are observing you. And I think that is nothing but sanskar. And I think we are all, we come from that background where it's a philosophy. You need to say what you're going to do and actually do it and follow through with it.
Divyaji, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I'll just take a little bit. I think Priyanka and Pratimaji have covered all the main points, but I agree it is time to break all the stereotypes, Aditya. I think it's time to work together for a husband or wife, work as a team. Kids, of course, are going to see whatever they're going to learn whatever they see at home. But I think it's also a good opportunity, because a lot of us travel, whether it's a husband or a wife, everybody's traveling, that they had different times, they were all away. And you know that, Aditya, most because I know you travel a lot. So I think it's a great opportunity to be home, to be able to get this time. Everybody used to say, oh, I wish I could spend more time with my kids. This is it. Make the most of it. And this is the time that people come together. And I see it in a joint family where I stay. It's not only my husband is super supportive. It's my brother-in-laws are very supportive. They're younger than us, but they're very, very good. They're very supportive. We work together how to keep the whole family safe, how to keep the elders safe, how to make sure the kids are doing the right thing and they're getting the right, learnings, and we're all spending time together. So I think to work together as a team makes a big difference, and we need to break this, who's doing the household chores and who's doing, I think at this time, everybody just comes together and just enjoys and makes the most of it. So, and, I think most importantly, Aditya, I feel for a lot of women, I think everybody comes from different backgrounds, but there are a lot of women who are probably facing a lot of psychological pressure at home.
Yes.
And which we are not understanding maybe. it's going well for all of us, but there are probably women who are facing a lot of it. So I think men need to be there at that time. Maybe it can just be that, can I just be patient with the women around, or just say, can I be of any help? Is there anything I can do? Or would you just like this time out? You never know what it is, what women
Yeah,
are
just
going through.
ask,
But
right?
I just feel there are a lot of psychological pressures that women probably are going through, and maybe men are also going through, because their businesses are in, various situations. So vice versa, I think we all need to be supportive of each other. That's the only way out.
I love this entire notion of the entire family coming together, right? I mean, this is the one time where you say, look, you can't really distribute roles and responsibilities. Things need to get done. Everybody has to show up and be present. Right. And guess what? Yeah. You're all locked in the same place, so you have no choice to be present. True. And for better also, for a lot of things. I'm going to take an audience question, which is on point here, Divya, what you covered. And I'd love if you could sort of kick us off with this answer. So the question is, this is Dia Jaiswal, who's a life coach in Kolkata, and she's asking us, what is the one thing that you do or say every morning that sort of helps you prepare for the crazy lockdown day ahead? Speaking of mental health, either a practice or a saying or something you remind yourself, or a feeling that, that you do every day, be like, okay, now this prepares me a little bit better for the world.
Okay. I think honestly, Aditya, first thing in the morning, seeing my kids, just being at home and not away makes me really happy. It's Jaiswal, you said. What did you say her first name was?
Dia.
Dia. Okay. Hi, Dia. You can hear me, I'm sure. So, Dia, I think that first thing that makes me happy is seeing my kids. But this one thing that we do every day is a havan for 20 minutes. And we all do it as a family together, when we all come together and pray. And we all know the havan, so we don't need anybody to come from outside. And I think that is just amazing, because it just binds us all together as a family. And then we share stories and we do whatever we can, so that half an hour, 40 minutes together is like the best time, I would say, which kind of binds us together. And it just makes us go forward for the whole day and be positive and just plan our day and see who has classes, who has whatever for the day, so that we're not thinking, oh, we have nothing to do for today. There's always something to do every day. But that 20 minutes to half an hour is the most crucial time that I do, Dia, with the family.
Fantastic. Priyanka?
So for me, actually, the last 2-3 years have been extremely busy at work, and the whole work-life balance has been quite a juggle. So I have been secretly wishing for it to slow down. So literally at times when I'm praying, I think that this is my prayer answered and the whole world is suffering. So when I wake up in the morning, I always tell myself, this is something I was wishing for, to slow down, take it easy, wanted to spend more time at home, not travel as much as I was traveling. And I have always really had this belief in God, and no matter how bad it gets, I know it is going to get better. So my first thing in the morning is that this was something which I wanted to happen. I wanted to take it slow, take a little break. So I tell myself that this is my slow down period. And when things bounce back, I'm supposed to take this to reboot and re-energize, and then come back into the into the work life with a bang, while the work life is still going on. But I'm telling myself to make the most of this slow down period every day. And believe you not me, it's actually turning out to be really just that, spending time at home, doing things that I was wishing to do with the kids and at home. There are new dimensions of home that have suddenly happened. So enjoying it and telling myself to make the most of it every morning.
Pratimaji, please.
Yeah, the first thing when I wake up, I say, thank God I'm still alive. And thank God for today. Because, you don't know with COVID, when it hits you and what happens, and you hear such horrible stories, you don't want to be one of those. You try and you pray that it doesn't happen to anyone at all. But then we have a very nice, elaborate tea. And all of us sit and have tea, several cups of tea, and we're chatting. And it's very nice to be with the family. My son doesn't stay here, but then we are all on video conference and we chat with him. And I think we figure out who's doing the whole day. And it's a very nice bonding time, And we have this dog who is, I think he's the best thing that's happened to us. He's a little angel in the house. So he has actually brought in so much happiness that I think it's very essential to be happy wherever you are at whatever time, because if you're happy, I think you can generate happiness around you.
Brilliant, Pratibha. I think, I should be taking notes right now, but good thing we're
Aditya
recording
ji,
this.
can I add one point to this,
Please,
to
Divya.
what we all said? I
Please.
just feel, I mean, this is especially for you, Dia. I feel this is also a time for all of us to think what we can give back to society in whatever small way. However our day starts, Dia, you can also think of what you can give back and how you can help. Maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's somebody in the society, maybe it's somewhere outside. What is your bit that you can do? I think it's a good time, Aditya, for all as families or whoever comes together and does something. Maybe God is just giving us that opportunity.
No, absolutely. And I think, it's times like these where we start to figure out what's the most important things in life, what really matters to us. And also this entire opportunity to be selfless, to do things for others and really say, what is my impact on the world? And I hope everybody at home is sort of taking that time to contemplate and self-reflect as well. I'm going to now a little bit transition to one of the most important questions that we've all been asking, right? We've conducted the world's greatest experiment on work from home and change policies, right? Um, for years, people have been saying that, look, we can have flexible hours, we can do work from home, we can do remote work. I have a lot of companies who've tried this, they've experimented, some have actually put it into place. But one would argue the vast majority, 98, 99% of companies were still very much in a traditional systems of there. And we said one day, look, the entire world, we will jointly together do this massive experiment. And the learnings have been incredible for everybody. We've just heard from all of you on some of the brilliant things you're able to accomplish at work still, given the situation that's there. But one of the things which excites me about this is that it finally proved to a lot of people that you can have flexible hours, you can do work from home, you can have remote working. And critically, one of the biggest barriers for women who want to participate in the workforce is that due to their choices in life, that they wanted both a family and a professional life and trying to find that balance, are told that, look, there are only certain industries that can support this type of lifestyle. Or, you can't take a very senior leadership role because, you can't be in the office 24/7. Now, all of us here know that's not true. In my own companies, most of our senior people are women, and some of them are part-time, half-day in office. Some of them have worked from home, and we've done that for the last 10 years, and it worked really well. But now we've proven that to the entire world. What do you think? Is this a temporary fad and that everybody's just going to go back that, okay, we all had this crisis, let's go back to the way it is? Or has the world fundamentally shifted? And what are the opportunities for women you're seeing now that this fundamental shift has happened? Pratibha ji, love to start from you on this.
I think that adversity leads to innovation. And I think what's happened is working from home has basically helped us to set up, and if we have not done it already, to set up new protocols for work assessment. So once you have the protocols for work assessment, it is going to affect all your HR policies, it's going to affect your policies for documentation, for your knowledge management, and all this is going to start coming in. So, you may come to a conclusion that, if things open up, maybe you can come twice a week, or maybe just once a week or once a month, depending on what kind of work you're doing. So I think in senior levels, you don't have to be there every moment of the day. You're using your brain most of the time. So you're taking reviews, they can come online, and we're doing it as it is, we're doing it right now. So you just continue. I think this system and this shift is here to stay longer than we imagine, because actually half the population is going to be very happy with the shift. So if half the population is happy with the shift, they'll have to accommodate that half, is my belief. And if more than half is happy with this shift, possibly they'll just have to go with it. And I think that may be the new normal. So I think we need to take into consideration all this. Now, there may be policy changes like, maternity leave. They may have to give paternity leave as well for men. They may have to rethink your insurance policies, for instance. They may need to rethink a lot of things. And I think that is important. You need to do that because, well, we didn't bring COVID here, right? But we are all adjusting to it. And if we find a new normal, which is going to benefit all of us, why not? And what I'm really happy with is the young kids are going to benefit the most. Today, you have all these insecurities in kids. It's simply because, It is the mother who's not there. A mother is the world for a child, is the world for a child. So if she's not there, he has no world. And I think if most of the time in his growing years, if she's not there, he is going to be a very insecure person. So I'm happy that this has happened so that women can participate working from home.
Pratima ji, absolutely. By the way, thank you for mentioning paternity leave. I've been petitioning for this in my family business for myself. My leave application is still pending. Fingers crossed. Maybe after this, something will happen. Priyanka ji, please, your thoughts on this.
I think one of the big takeaways from COVID is going to be work from home. I can tell you personally, whenever there were these requests, I thought that work from home was a very millennial thing to do. And I believe that I believe that until unless I wear my work shoes and I'm at my desk, wearing I only commute from Delhi to Gurgaon, but in the peak traffic hours where it takes me a 45 to a 1.5 hour.
Yeah.
But I needed to be at my desk to get my brain to start working, For me personally, it has been a new finding. I have learned how to work from home. I have learned how my team is coping so well working from home. When it comes to, in terms of saving time, I mean, going forward, COVID, of course, there's enough time in hand. But the kind of time all of us actually waste in metro cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, just trying to get to work, the whole pressure that goes on the ecosystem with all of us being out on the road in the traffic jams, the human resource, the time resource that gets wasted for us to just get to work and sit at the desk and then start our work. I think all of this can be saved if we start at least for a few days, in a week working from home. So this is definitely going to be the new norm. For us in particular in the travel industry, we have learned to do a lot of trainings on Zoom calls. So from doing road shows where we wanted to have 300, 500 people in one hall, we have had now managed to have 500 people on a Zoom call and to be able to give them product training. So again, that's a new learning, that's a new shift. And I'm very, very sure that this is also going to stay. The online trainings are definitely going to stay post this lockdown opens. It definitely will give women a lot more opportunity. I always, in any case, feel that when you have women, in a company, they come with a certain sincerity and integrity, which is definitely to another level. We are great multitaskers. There is a reason when you see a Durga Ma with like few hands. So the new version of Durga Ma has a book and and a spoon and a ladle and a bottle. All of that. So that's our version of Durga Ma's, and all of us are Durga Ma's in one way or the other. So this will definitely give us women this opportunity. In terms of policy, I think the maternity leave policy, which says 6 months of paid leave, I think we need to look at it another in a newer dimension, where companies with with a higher workforce of women actually should be looking at a higher income tax rebate or return some better reductions, etc. I think that would definitely push companies to actually hire more women, because the fact that women are more sincere, integral, everybody understands it. But by the nature of the women who drop out of the pipeline as they reach the higher management roles, it kind of does affect the hiring of women at so many places. So I think policies where companies actually benefit in terms of taxes on hiring women would be a great change if somehow somewhere something like that could be introduced.
So we have a differential tax system for women, just as we have different GST slabs. Why not have different taxes?
No, what I'm saying is, if my company has 40% workforce which is women, then for me,
so
when
some
I'm paying
schemes
taxes,
or
yes.
interest subventions, and I think that's a great idea. I mean, yes. I don't know how they'll do it in practice, but I think it's a good thought to at least start encouraging women entrepreneurs to raise. And by the way, I've seen this happen in a lot more countries. The UAE, for example, has a very big scheme for women entrepreneurs. They get, for example, 50% off on all government fees if the majority of management are on the shareholders are women. So there are other countries who have done this very well. But what I also love about what you focused on the commute one of the big barriers to entry for women is that, they're living in cities where there's high commute time, particularly in the evening. And, and if they don't leave at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock sharp, they're going to hit 8, 9. And if they stay in office till 8, 9, 10 o'clock, often it's very unsafe for them to be commuting at night on their own. And, employers have to take an extra effort and pay more to get them options. If they are sitting home comfortably, kids have been put to bed, they could conceivably work for 2, 3, 4 more hours very, very happily and really contribute. Divyaji, please, your thoughts on this. Opportunities unlocked.
Thank you.
And is this there to stay? I mean, one of my big concerns is that, we'll all, we've had this 3-month stressful, extremely, traumatic time. And then people say, okay, this is done. It's done now. Let's put that as a bad memory. We'll talk to our grandkids about how we went through COVID. Let's get back to how things are.
It's true, Aditya. Unfortunately, we have very short-term memories. People do tend to forget very fast. And that's one thing that I've been talking about to everybody, that people really do forget. But I think it is time to see virtual offices. It's time to live with the times. We used to say our children are so techie, they're going to be a different generation. No longer. We're the same generation. We're going to be as techie as them, and we're going to get there somehow. So I would say things are definitely going to change. And I think people are going to try and change more and get more technology savvy, try and get to people to work from home. Especially for women, I feel 50% of the workforce can come back, Aditya. They haven't been working because they would, either whatever personal reasons, they would not come back to work. This is the best opportunity they have. And I think as CII can play a role in this, work with corporates to see how they can encourage more women to work from the house, to have such, systems for them that they can have some rules or whatever changes that we can make in the policies, that they can actually work from the house. They can rise to better positions because they can continuously in a job and not stopping and taking breaks. So as far as women go, there can be, I think it's a superb opportunity, but it's not only about women, it's also the men in the roles. So I think people are going to like online meetings. This is going to be a new way of life. And I think this is going to continue. Like I said, all these tools have been there, Aditya. Nobody has used them so much before.
Or taken them seriously, right?
Taken them seriously.
We've tried to do Zoom calls, but people see them as novelties rather than there is nothing beyond. This is it.
So I just hope that the short-term memory doesn't work and people do kind of continue this way, because this is going to be the new trend and it's going to be here for a while. It's not just June, July, August. I think we are going to continue like this for a bit. And the more we do, I see it in a sector, we are part of education. We see a lot of women working. Some of our senior vice chancellors are all women. And we see them multitasking all the time, like Priyanka was mentioning and Pratima ji had mentioned. Multitasking is just a way of life for them. But we have actually seen them do all of those together, whether they're on site or not on site. And we've always given them that chance. And you understand that most as well, being in a similar sector, how it works.
Absolutely brilliant. Yes. All right, so we are sort of hitting at the halfway marker of this webinar. A lot of new people have joined. Thank you very much for being here. Very excited to have 3 big organizations, CII, IWN, and of course FBN, really getting us these 3 wonderful panelists to there. We're going to take a quick shift to now a little bit talking more about the family business and women and that angle, because that is something that a lot of you are asking questions. And I think it's worth taking a deep dive into that. If you have questions, please ask on-topic questions. I know, once again, we have 3 industry stalwarts with us. We can't go into industry or sector-specific questions about women, family business, everything like that. Please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on a phone, click More, click Q&A. Ask your question there. If it's to a specific panelist, please put that specific panelist's name there, and we will make sure that the question is answered. So I'm going to just quickly shift gears a little bit and talk about the changing of roles in family business. Even 3 generations ago, you could count the number of women who are either leading family businesses or even part of their boards or management. That in India on maybe 1 hand or maximum 2. And I think now we are seeing so many young women step up. They have truly both as shareholders, as owners, and also as serious management talent, taken deep roles. What changed? And Pratima ji, I know the Kirloskar Group is celebrating 100 plus years now, being a public company, and I think 130 years on the belt. You guys have seen a multi-generational shift, and you've seen it across family business across India. What has changed that suddenly now, particularly in those women who are in their 30s, in some cases 40s, have suddenly made an appearance in the scene of family businesses?
I think that's a very good question. What's happened is that there's been a huge stress on education and women's participation. I think the generation before, women participated in business, but they were not formally necessarily trained for business. Now, the next generation, they are formally trained for business. When they come out as professionals. See, the difference is that being just a family member in business and being a professional family member, coming to a family business as a professional makes all the difference. And it makes a difference for perception. People who work for you perceive you differently. And let me tell you that the young people that I see running family businesses are very, very qualified young girls. I can see lots of young girls who are very qualified, very aggressive, very confident, very well read. And I think there's something that can actually daunt an average person. So I think they have that extra spirit in them. And it's their grooming, it's their everything that has just added up. So I think that is the difference that has happened. We want professional individuals. You see, because business has also changed. If there's an unfortunate turn of events and your business has to wrap up for some reason, you want your children to be there in the world as professionals. So if they're professionals and they work in your business, that's wonderful. And if there's no business and they don't want to be part of the business, that's wonderful too, because there's a whole new world there of startups. And the family need not even fund the startup, because I think then you're completely independent of the family and all the baggage the family can bring. You can have your own independent business. You can have a full board of different people who have investing. Now there are formal investors here, lots of investors. I work with several entrepreneurs and startup companies, and there's a new world there. So we need to explore the possibility of the various opportunities that have opened up for everyone.
I absolutely love that notion. And I think and just to sort of add to what you're saying, right? So, back in the day, it was more about what connections you had, what networking, the old boys club, the old family club, the old bureaucrats, politician clubs, right? And now suddenly, education and performance has taken the center stage. And this is where, when we are educating our next generation, that women say, hey, I am as qualified as anybody else you would try to hire for this role. And although my sister, might disagree, free labor, at least as far as the family business is concerned. And because to hire someone at that caliber outside, the amount of money you would have to spend, it's a no-brainer. Please, you have a highly educated super professional at home. Let's get them to contribute if they want to, right? And if they don't, I think your notion that the education is the greatest gift you can give to the next generation, because it makes them independent. Then they're not dependent on the family business. Tomorrow, if something, God forbid, goes wrong, and in these COVID-19 times, there's a lot of businesses which are struggling. They have the confidence and the skill set to go out to the market, either through a startup or through just a professional career, not have to worry about, what happens, or be dependent on anybody. And I think that's a great vision. Priyanka,
I wanted to add one thing. I didn't like your word slave. And why? Because I feel life is what you negotiate. You teach your children to negotiate the terms. Everybody negotiates with us, and we teach our children to negotiate the terms. I mean, they're qualified, they're bringing something to the table, and they should fight for their rights rather than a parent fighting for their rights. They need to stand there and fight for their rights.
I completely agree with you. And don't worry, my sister has fought for a lot of rights. Neha, if you're hearing this. Priyanka ji, love to get your things. Why have suddenly women made an appearance on the family business scene? They were completely absent maybe 20 years ago, but every year that has passed since then, we are seeing across industry associations, across companies, women taking both, and not just as first-time entrepreneurs, but also as many generation-old family businesses, suddenly women are taking a big lead?
So I think what has changed is probably the mindset. I think there's a different, probably a different statistics in the 30 pluses and the 40 pluses. When we see the 40 pluses, I think the percentage is kind of still lower, because in the 40 pluses, while most of us were very, when we were studying, nobody said that eventually we were somebody who was supposed to get married and not work, right? If you go back at the statistics, the girls are the ones who do better in schools, we do better in colleges, and then suddenly it is time to get married and settle down, which is what was happening in the 2000s and the 2005s. So it is a very happy change. I mean, girls have been qualified so many times when I'm actually complimented, and I have women friends who are standing and appreciating, saying that you're doing so well, etc. I only end up saying it was probably because I got the opportunity, and not the opportunity in terms of education, in terms of the opportunity to work in the family business. There was an opportunity which my father-in-law was open to, my husband was open to, because there are a lot of educated, very well qualified women out there who did not get the opportunity to work even outside, and they did not probably they weren't able to stand up for it, and the family businesses did not allow their entry. Whereas when I'm seeing the 30 pluses, it is coming very obviously to them. When they are finishing their education, the next thing that they're stepping into is the family business. The parents are thinking of getting them in, because we were always qualified, just that there was a difference in the opportunity that was coming in. When you go down to the parents who are right now 40 plus, when they are looking at their daughters, oh God, everybody is imagining them to hold the 50% in the property. They're actually mentally dividing the businesses. I mean, when my husband and me are talking, we're actually thinking this one is going to run this and this one's going to run that. So thankfully, we are getting there. The problem was the mindset, and the problem still is the mindset. What I am saying is a reflection of still a very small section. And we still are dealing with women wanting to do it all. We still have the whole, Sheryl Sandberg's book on Lean In, where women are supposed to be the perfect balance. I have had that personal discussion once with my 15-year-old, and she said, she came back from school and she said, God, Mom, all the girls in my school, we were just talking about you, how you're managing this and you're managing that. We all want to be like you. We want to work, we want to have kids, and we want to get married. And I looked at her, I said, who told you to, does this marriage and work kind of thing comes? But I think, but what I think is that that's how girls are watching all of us. And that's what they are kind of, girls are still wanting to do the whole work-life balance. So maybe, the change would be when we look at the boys, and the boys are actually equally happy to work in the kitchen. When we are able to get over the divide, the stereotyping that we do in the basic, the first chart that a child is handed, where the mother is seen cooking and the father is seen walking out with a briefcase. I think the gender stereotyping that we do there is what stays with all of us for a very long time. And women and girls grow up thinking that family and house is their first priority. And if they have a career, they have to juggle the two, right? So once I think the shift now where women are seeing themselves and their own ambitions and their aspirations as equally important is what is leading for us to see more and more women in leadership roles. And it is definitely a great change. It is definitely, the statistics are finally looking good. Whereas when you see overall, as a country, we are still amongst the least 4-5,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So that's not good, but at least it's a positive. At least we are standing at a shift where there's an increase in women in leadership roles, at least. So there's some positive happening, and it's great news.
One would almost argue, and I apologize, I don't have the exact statistics, but I'm looking at anecdotally that in fact, at least in 2020, I can see in family-led businesses and family businesses more women in senior roles than I see in non-family businesses. And I think that's come up because a lot of things. Devaji, love to get your thoughts. Why the sudden jump? Is it a generational shift? The education has done, we've covered those points. What's happening? Why suddenly this opportunity has presented, and how can we keep up this momentum?
I think mostly the points were covered, Aditya. It's definitely a mindset change which has happened. But most importantly, women are more qualified. But there's one other thing that we can look at is that I feel women have more role models to look up to. There's
Yes.
so many people doing so much now that one, as a younger woman, you feel like you have a role model, you can do this as well. And so I think women also have the opportunity. Earlier, maybe, they had the opportunity, but they didn't know how to grasp it. They have many more opportunities now. Personally, I come from a very progressive family. I think I'll give my example, especially when I got married. I think the first thing my father-in-law said is that, I would like you to work more than anything else, which whatever makes you comfortable, whichever thing that you would want to do, but for the organization, but I would like you to work. So I personally have seen a very progressive family, whether I'm a daughter-in-law, whether I've seen a daughter in the family. But I must say, as family businesses, also during COVID times, Aditya, we should not forget, I feel businesses are coming together
Yes.
and actually thinking of what their core competency is, why they were actually there. I mean, Pratima ji is the best example because she's like 100-year-old. But I think other businesses are coming together. They're thinking about why they started their business in the first place. What is it that they can do? People just divert into small side pet projects. I think all those diversions are gone and people are actually thinking what their main core competency is. And I think at these COVID times, that is what's important for a family business, to see what they existed for, what they should continue for. As far as women go, of course, they have great opportunities. This new generation has all the education. They're well-traveled. If you look at our kids, Aditya, who are much younger, I mean, I can't even say she will do this and he will do that. They don't even understand that. They both will do the same thing. They're both given the same opportunities. It's their decision what they enjoy and what they don't, whether it's a girl or a boy. So I think this generation is not going to grow up with a she or a he. They're going to grow up with these are the opportunities and whatever we are good at.
I think
that's how things are changing in
absolutely
businesses.
a great way to look at it. And, and I think we've talked a bit about, assigning gender roles from day one. And
Aditya, whatever age you are at, and whether you're a boy or a girl or whatever family part you're of, you have to prove yourself at the end of it. You have to earn that respect. And that only comes once you start working and earn it. However qualified you are, you have to earn respect for yourself. That's how you can continue in the business.
Now, I'm going to go a little bit into a nuance into this family business thing, right? One of the big things, and in an offline conversation, Pratima ji had made this very lovely point, and it's something I'd love you to expand on. There is one thing that's saying that, hey, we want to give, a daughter the opportunity to work in the family business. There's a very different thing in saying that they're an equal stakeholder and shareholder. But then, why is that so important? Why is making sure that you have women who are shareholders as important as maybe giving them a directorial or a managerial role?
You see, I think at the end of I would make a distinction between inheritance and work. So for work, you need to have caliber. For inheritance, your birth has determined it. So I don't think women are any less than the boys. The girls are not any less than the boys. So inheritance has to be equal, irrespective of. But for work, if you are less qualified, I think whether it's a boy or a girl, you may want to decide how much to expand his work or what he can do and his powers. But I think that when you are dividing your property or you're dividing your shares, you certainly need to give both kids equally. So I am very, very clear about that.
But and I love this nuance thing you're talking about. A lot of people, especially men, have this notion that it's their right to work in the family business. I was born here. Because of that, I have to have the CEO title or an MD title or some fancy plate with a lovely card. But you're saying no, actually, doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Inheritance is very different from competence, right? Yes. And you certainly have a good argument to say that women should be treated equal as men, but nobody should just jump into a family business just because you're saying, okay, they're somebody's kids. They're not competent to do that. Maybe they're better off as a shareholder. And I think that's a very nuanced argument. Thoughts about this, Priyanka? And one of the interesting parts, and since I have all three of you here, there's a very different dynamic between being a sister, being a daughter, and being a daughter-in-law, right? And all these three play a very different role in what you can have in terms of push either in the family business as a managerial role or as a shareholder or the thing. And so I'd love to get a little bit of nuance around that on how that perspective changes. I know what you're doing, for example, is part of the main business, but it's sort of your own domain and as an offshoot. Could you just talk a little bit more about that? How does that work? And is it something you think is sustainable for other women to adopt?
Sure. So what I do, like you said, is an offshoot of the main travel business. But at the same time, being, the family has been in the travel business for over 40 years. So so the customer market literally remains the same. It is the same 40,000 travel agents across India who I need to reach out to, or probably a smaller percentage. But in terms of the market, it's the same. I still have the same, I still have the same surname behind my name, which is recognized in most of the parts of India, as coming from an old travel house, which has its own advantage. So in that sense, of course, my business is a part of the family business because this is the core competency that the family business has always had. But again, I came into the business as a daughter-in-law, where thankfully, where the education that I came with was appreciated, was valued, and going out in the night for a drink probably was not so appreciated, but traveling out of the city or going out for work was always open to. So in that sense, there was literally wind beneath my wings that the family was putting in, and there were enough opportunities that came my way. So, but now when it comes to what you are saying, that daughters and sons being equal shareholders, I think lawfully that already stays. The problem right now is again in the whole mindset, and the problem is on how what you had just touched upon. The boy thinks he's entitled to the family business, where the girl thinks she's not. Now, I think we need to go back to where this is coming from. Are we saying it, you have to get married and go away, and we are telling the son that you are the one who is supposed to stay in the house? So I think the disconnect is there. If I am telling my son that this is your house and I'm telling my daughter this is not, or if I'm telling him you have to run it and I'm telling her and saying you have to not, then the problem is in me. The problem is the propagation is coming from me. Whereas if I am the change and I'm saying I, because I believe in the power of one. If I can't control my left side, maybe my mother won't agree with it, maybe my sister won't agree with it, but I agree with it. This is my teaching, and the thing is that we are the next generation of mothers. It is us who are bringing up the boys. It is us who are bringing up the girls. So I have to teach my daughter that it's okay she doesn't like the kitchen. And and it's equally okay that my son likes babies more than my daughter does. We can't tell the girl. I mean, for me, if my son is crying, there is no way I will tell him don't cry like a girl. Those are the things, because those are the things. These are the messages that we are carrying from one generation to the other. The kid cries, you say don't cry like a girl. I mean, why? So then why are girls supposed to cry and boys are not? And why is it not okay for a boy to cry if he feels like it? He's a kid. He's a 10-year-old. It's okay. He got hurt. He's crying. And I have a 10-year-old girl. She might not want to cry. She's strong enough not to. So I think there is a lot of, laws put aside, because today, even if the property inheritance says we have equal rights, but if families have not brought up the brothers in a way where they think that they have to give away the 50%, tomorrow when the sister wants her rights, this might lead the families to be in courts. This might lead to the same brother you've shared a room with standing against you in a courtroom because you're filing a suit against him. Now, do all of us girls as sisters want to do that? And it's so confusing because that's your house, that's your mica. The whole thing is so, I think there's just so much shift in education that we need to do. Policies is part 2 of the story. I think the part 1 is the whole mind shift, where this whole thing of this is my house and this is my mica, and then you fight with your brother and you lose your mica. Is it worth it to get the money? Right? Because if your brother has not been taught that your sister is an equal partner in your property, I mean, if it's 2 brothers, it's obvious things get divided. But when it's a girl and a boy, it's not obvious. So there's a lot of change that needs to come in. And I think the change has to come from us, because we are the mothers of next generation. We are the mother-in-laws of next generation. If today we are able to say that I am going to support my daughter-in-law as much as I'm going to support my daughter, or in when she wants to step out, or I'm going to have the same kind of feeling, I'm going to have the same kind of I will give her the same fallback option. I think a lot will change. So like I said earlier.
Priyanka, I absolutely love this characterization, and it has to start from both ways, right? It has to start from the education that all of us, and not just mothers. I think even fathers have to now sit and say that I can't have a different conversation with my son and a different conversation with my daughter. They both need to be there together, and it's the same conversation you have, and it's up to them, as Pratimaji has said, it's up to them to then figure out what they want to do with that. An opportunity. But I also love what this very interesting dynamic that you set up, right? And I'm seeing so many men, particularly, where you're saying that, okay, let's divide the property. You have a male child, you have a brother and a sister, and the sister doesn't want to sue for anything, because the horrible situation for any family to be in at any time, right? When one family member has to assert their rights. And you have brothers who are saying, well, I was not raised this way, so I'm not, this is, I've been told since I was born that I have to take over, I have to manage, it's my responsibility, and it's my inheritance. But often the same brother is saying, when they have daughters, that I will split it equally. So there's also a very
Mindset.
interesting mindset where they haven't been able to reconcile it. They haven't been able to reconcile what they grew up with, that this belongs to me and my sister is there and I have to take care of her. The Rakhi and all this has to be tied and everything is there, but they don't inherit. My daughters will inherit, but they won't inherit. And I thought that was a very interesting dynamic you sort of pushed out there, that it makes a huge difference. Divyaji, love your perspective on this. It's such a complicated and hard thing for families, family businesses to adjust, and making room for women. Every family business is struggling, and I think there are a lot of them who've tried different systems. Priyanka ji has mentioned one, Pratima ji has mentioned another. I'm sure you went through this as well.
I think I mentioned already earlier, Aditya, and also I think between Pratima ji and Priyanka, they've covered all the points of how one can manage. But I would just say that I've said, from not only from after being married, but before my marriage also, I come from a very progressive family. I saw my grandfathers, all 4 daughters were the MDs of the company. And it was not just his sons, his son, so it was his daughters as well. So I have seen that side and I've seen everything, but I think you're right. It is all about how we decide as parents and how responsible we can be and teach our children forward. And I think rest have been covered by both, so I don't think so more can be added to this. So through experience, one can only see what one experiences, and I'm saying that I have experienced this, and I have seen no difference. But of course, there are a lot of things that people go through. In fact, we have a silent member with us, Bhavna. She's part of CIIWN. She happens to be Shiv Khera's daughter, Aditya. And she joined her father about 2 years ago. And it's amazing how her whole dynamic has changed with work and business and how well she's doing, because she's earned her own respect. It had nothing to do. She was always Shiv Khera's daughter for so many years, but she's earned her own respect.
She's never used the surname, by the way. Hi, Bhavna, for hanging out behind the scenes. Sorry for dragging you in.
I told her that I might use her as an example. So I'm glad you gave me that opportunity. So I think everything has been covered on this point, Aditya. So for us being good parents in the future. Lots to learn from you, Pratima ji.
Absolutely. By the way, everybody, all those who are listening here, IWN is an incredible support network for women. Please join them. Both Bhavna and Rinki Wahar, who are sort of co-leading the Delhi chapter, are absolutely fabulous. They've helped put all this together today. And it is not just for, and they take individual membership. So it's not just for as a company or as a family business, it's for all women professionals. They have an incredible support network from women from all walks of life who are trying to do amazing things and who really need to stick together and support each other. So please, I encourage everybody in the audience, to please do consider looking at an IWN membership, particularly in these COVID times. I am going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to on the chat post a message there where our audience can click. I apologize to the men. I've been trying to join them for years, but apparently you have to be a woman to join. So only the women can join, which is sad for us men, but it's okay. We've had a good run on exclusive groups, and it's time that the women get something that is really a true support network for them. I will post that to the chat. Please do go fill out the form. They do take membership very seriously, so do fill out the entire form, and there's a membership committee which will decide and hopefully get back to you soon. But I'm not going to lose this opportunity since I have a bunch of family business people here. Pratimaji, very quickly on this. Are family businesses responding to COVID-19 better? We've seen so many family businesses in India come out in support publicly, socially. They've all been very philanthropic. I don't like the word CSR because I think it's a very buzzy word. It's not like family businesses and normal businesses weren't giving money to social causes for decades and decades and decades before this invention of this term. But truly, do you think family businesses are responding in a better way, not just publicly, but also in terms of HR, also in terms of, just managing things better? Does it make a difference?
I think it doesn't make a difference whether you're from a family business or you're from any other business. As it happens, family businesses, especially the old ones, I can speak for ourselves. We are based out of rural India. And when you are based out in a rural setting, you need to necessarily do a lot of things beyond the call of duty. So if there is no hospital there, we've set up a hospital. If there's no school, we set up a school. So around our township, we've set up all these facilities for people. And our township is 132 years old today. Now, the point is that people are used to that. So if there's a flood, it's a default setting. We are called and we send in boats, help these people, bring them and house them in our school for a couple of days. They stay there till the floods recede and they go back. So with or without CSR, this work was being done in any case. And I'm quite sure most of the other family business was set up in rural areas had to do this because there was no proper infrastructure at that time. Today, our infrastructure is much better. So our reach is much better. And of course, the larger companies, everyone is participating. So I think that this has been a nation building exercise and everybody has come together. In fact, even the small startups have been helping. So what we have been saying is, especially for the startups, is, if you have any machinery that can be used for COVID, so do a little pivot, pivot your business a bit. For instance, we had made some suggestions to the construction industry that when you have, you say the construction industry is doing very badly, there are so many empty apartments lying there, what does one do? So, when we have a spike, the whole purpose of keeping everybody home was because we did not have enough facilities. So these could actually add up as makeshift facilities, which all the construction people can give for a short while during COVID. There are many textile manufacturers, there are retailers. So we were suggesting even to textile manufacturers that this is the time for this makeshift arrangement. You will need everything that a hospital requires, right? From PPE, suits, masks, and sheets. So maybe this is the time you can pivot your business for 3 months, help out. And you see the government is supporting such activities today. So even if there's a shutdown, but if you're participating in COVID, they are supporting it. So I would urge them that if they can pivot their business. So many auto companies who are making ventilators, because their wipers use a small motor and a similar motor is used for ventilators. So if you can have a dual purpose, I think this is a good time to pivot your business.
Ranjini, absolutely. And one of the things which for me is very interesting, and I work with a lot of family businesses to figure out structuring and succession planning, and help them framework this through. And one of the things which I always love about family businesses is that you have often the shareholders and the management very close in touch, right? And so when you need to step up, when you need to send those boats, when you need to take a hard decision, when you need to say, no, we have to go out and do this, you're not worried what the shareholders are going to talk about. I saw this beautiful WhatsApp message, and I won't give the name of companies, and it had all the list of companies which had stepped up, right, and truly stepped up far beyond the call of duty, taking a hit massively on their top line, on their bottom line, taking a hit on their cash, but really stepped up. And it was, list of companies with family as shareholders, list without, and it was just so stark. And because a lot of very well-meaning professional directors and all, the biggest question they asked, hey, government has said only 2% of your profit has to go into CSR. How dare you, that the stock will go down if they suddenly said, look, our communities are in trouble. Let's spend this huge amount of money doing flood relief and saving people and doing COVID and providing meals and all of this. They have a CSR budget and they'll be penalized by their shareholders if they don't do it. And I love what you're saying is that because you have shareholders and senior management on the same page, the family can come in together and say, no, we support this, we are taking hard decisions, and we'll take the financial hit. There isn't sort of the institutional or retail shareholders who have to be asked. We can make those decisions today. Priyanka, how about that? Do you think that's true? Is that in disasters such as COVID, family businesses are able to react faster?
So I agree. I think what you just said, that if you do not have an external board, etc., then such decisions, one can take more easily, because even if you want to go beyond your CSR fixed spend, you want to go beyond it. It's more of a personal decision than having a board to go to. And
Priyanka, I'm going to pause. I just want to clarify. I think external boards for family businesses are great. They are part of standard grade governance.
I was just going to correct you. We have an external board. We have independent directors. Yes.
What I meant was the shareholders,
yes,
who finally vote, right, and who control the capital. So not the board as much as the shareholder. Sorry, I thought I'd make that clarification.
Or both. It's both.
It's
both. The shareholders and the board. Yes.
And the board.
So in any case, I think, at this time, especially during the COVID times, it's pure, this is where you actually see the whole nation come together. Be it anybody, they have literally opened their pockets, done their CSRs, beyond their CSRs, to do the best what they can at this point of time, right? And of course, wherever the decision making is faster, I think it's easier for companies to shell out, greater amounts than they are kind of restricted to. So those advantages definitely come on in there. But at the same time, at this point, I think this, you're literally seeing all sectors, all across, everybody going beyond their call of duty. Not only that, even when you move down to like the smaller levels, you see everyone going whatever they can, from people cooking out of their houses to sending out stuff. It is actually great to see how this has actually united all of us as a nation and made us all move towards the greater cause, and not only look at just our own houses or looking at how it is affecting our pockets.
Divyaji would love to get in on this, and very specifically, are family businesses able to do more, or that's just a perception, and that well-run, well-known public brands are doing as much or more?
I actually endorse what you said initially, Aditya. The families are coming together and are being more mission-oriented. It's not just about the profit anymore. Everybody is trying to do their bit. We all know that. It may be in a small way or a big way. Everybody's trying to do. But of course, when you have a bigger business or a family business is there are more leaders. There's one person who can take the decision and can put everyone together and say, let's do this. There's obviously one can do much more. So there definitely family businesses are coming together. And I'm sure you have seen that a lot, Aditya, with CII as well. A lot of people probably are coming forward. And I can give you some examples of things that we have done, is that a lot of university hostels are being taken as quarantine centers. Of course, whatever one can do to help. And, we have 24/7 counseling phone lines, not only for the faculty, but for their families, and which you can imagine the numbers. There are also students who are, who are living on the hostel, have gone home, some haven't made it back. So 24/7, anything they need, because who else is going to support them? So these are the kind of things that one looks into, what one can do for a society or for one's own people. So I think family businesses are definitely coming together. And I won't say professionals are not. Everybody's trying to do their bit, Aditya, at this point. And it's basically everybody has to see what they can do, because everybody wants to make sure they pay everybody's salaries, everybody should be on time, everybody should be safe. So I think people have to keep everything in mind.
So I'd love to take a couple of questions. One big question which has come, and I'll just give some context for this question. We have what's very interesting that's happened in COVID-19. You have a lot of industries as well as functions which have a larger representation of women. Whether it's HR, whether it's clinical, whether it's pharmaceuticals, education, a lot of places where we do have a lot more women than in some of our more traditional industries, which have a less representation of women, have had to step up. They've become essential functions, have become essential industries. And I think that's an interesting part that has sort of put a lot of women into the limelight and their roles within the larger organization. But, one of the questions which always gets asked, there's this, we had a period of 10, 15, 20 years, and it's still going on, where people are saying, look, the best way to become an innovative, great, awesome company is just find a bunch of women off the street, toss them on your board, or hire a bunch of women. And guess what? That's the single most thing you can do to completely change your company, make it super diverse, and, manna will rain from heaven and everything will be okay. Now, obviously, there's at some, all of us want to give the same opportunities to women. All of us would love. And I am in multiple businesses where easily most of our senior management and key decision makers are women. But Pratimaji, would love to get you on this. You've seen this, across so many sectors. What's your thoughts on just, women, diversity, business? How do we actually get that benefit? Or, are they right?
I think diversity helps. But so let me tell you, so if you bring a woman on board, what is good is a woman has some instinctive traits where she likes to nurture whatever she's taking care of, right? So if she does that and she has caliber, she has empathy, she's able to build and work across teams, I find that her communication skills are also very good. She is able to articulate things pretty well. So she can form and work in a cohesive group. Sometimes that's excellent. In an emergency, they're excellent because they communicate the messages very quickly. They form teams very quickly. There is no ego there, because they like to work and get the work done. And I think that comes naturally to women. So I think having women is good, but not just having women. It's important to have women who are qualified, women who are a bit evolved. So if you're an evolved person, what you can give to the business is far more than you can even imagine. So someone who is educated, someone who has worked across industries, maybe even with less education, but worked across, has good experience, I think I'd give her an opportunity. And if she's an all-rounder, I'd give her even a better opportunity. Because what people in sports, what it teaches you is it teaches you to resurrect yourself every time, because there's no such thing as the end. The end never happens. The end happens when you pass away. So the fact is, you keep on rising to the occasion and getting back and doing what you want. You have that resilience. And what I have seen is that women in very influential positions can be ruthless, just like it's again an intrinsic, intuitive. They're intuitive and it is instinctive. You want to preserve your pride. So you're prepared to give it your all. You're prepared to put your life there for it. And I think that's a very interesting trait that women have. So yes, diversity is good. It gives you a different mindset, and diversity of all kinds, not just women. You can have all kinds of people from different professions, because finally there's a convergence of all this. So you certainly need that diversity. But diversity, but diversity for the sake of diversity, I'm not so sure whether that would really work.
I love what you're saying, that, if you have well-qualified, well-educated women, that then adds a lot of value. And they bring a unique perspective. But just, finding people just to fill seats, to boast that I have so many women on my board or so many women managers, etc., to check off some diversity, and doesn't really work, right? And I think that's incumbent on all of us. And I love what you said. Make sure that they have the opportunity to have multiple experiences. I think that grows them, and then that'll grow the company as well. Priyanka, I'd love to get you in on this one. We have about 7-8 minutes to go. So we're going to take your opinion on this, and then we are going to try to do a quick wrap up.
Sure. So in terms of diversity, I mean, I agree. We can't look at bringing on women just because they are women. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I think as women, we are asking for equal opportunity. I don't want it more. I don't want it less. I just want to be treated equally. If I'm qualified for the job, if I'm good for the job, if I fit the job description, if I'm better than the candidate on my left and right, I want it. I don't want it just because I'm a woman and because there is a certain quota of women who are needed to, fill it up. So of course, so I mean, what I mean is that diversity for the sake of diversity, no. Equal, for us to get equal opportunity is very important. As an employer, when I am looking at, when I'm employing somebody, of course, we all have that mindset that the kind of sincerity, integrity, multitasking, and being able to manage, certain risky, certain situations which suddenly come up, women definitely have more in them. But at the same time, for me, I as a woman want to give and get equal opportunity, and that's it. I mean, give it to me if I deserve it. Otherwise, I don't want to give it and I don't want to take it.
I think that's a very noble way to think about it. I'm going to end on a big question that a couple of people have asked, and, it's something we've talked about honestly throughout this entire webinar, but in particular, this is Dr. Rao and one or two anonymous attendees have also asked this. Very clearly what's coming out is that one of the best things we can do is to really train the next generation, train our current generation of women to make them highly qualified, so that they're able to stand on their feet, be fantastic first choice hires in every single scenario rather than being a diversity compromise. And even in family business, to really show that, look, your family business will lose out if you don't involve them. That's our ideal case. Easier said than done. Very easier said than done. The big question that is coming is, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that we can do for our children, babies, young kids, teenagers, particularly for women? I'm sure it also might apply to men, but just looking at for women, what can we do to give them that training now, those values now, that will really set them up for that level of success? And I would love to start with Divya ji first. What are the 2-3 things that you believe that we can, as grandparents, mothers, fathers, uncles, teachers, etc., how can we train the next generation of women? The 2-3 things that we should absolutely do to set them up for success.
I think, Aditya, what we can do for our kids is firstly confidence and soft skills. I think education they will learn, they'll be taught the book knowledge always, but it's the values that we're going to give them, which they're going to take forward. So I think that is most important for our children to learn, and also how to keep things together. And these situations are going to be the normal way of life for a long time, I feel. So I think soft skills are very important for the next generation to come. And I feel these are COVID times, they're going to continue, and you're not finishing yet, right? So I just want to say one thing to all the women who are online, or even for the men. I think just be there for each other, especially the women. Talk to some friends, talk to each other, be there for each other, because this is the time. We are a very privileged lot here, Aditya, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who probably need each other right now, and one should speak and reach out to people. But for the future generation, confidence, soft skills, good values, and bookish knowledge they'll always get. Because there's a lot of online education now, there are a lot of courses, it all depends on us, because learning is never ending.
Thank you so much. Priyanka ji, your thoughts?
I mean, to touch upon this in terms of the gender stereotyping bit, where I think that the change that we need to bring in the society has to come in from our houses. The change that has to come in from is, like I said before, from us mothers and current mothers and fathers, where the message that we are giving to our kids has to change, where we have to, we have to change, where while we are educating our girls, We need to tell them that they have to be the breadwinners as well, and they need to be going out and working. We need to educate our sons that a woman's place is not in the kitchen only, and this is all across. This is not in our family businesses, big businesses. This needs to trickle down. I mean, we still have a lot of percentage of female feticide. We still have dowry. So those problems, I mean, we can't forget that there is a big section of India that is still dealing with those problems as well, right? But I think the change in messaging, once it starts coming, it will definitely start trickling down. It will start in our houses, go down probably with some effort to the help who's coming into our house. We can individually, leaving aside the CSR bits that we do, the drivers in our houses, the maids who come to our houses. I think the change has to first, most importantly, come within us. We have to believe that this is what we want to do. This is where I want to see my next generation. I want to be okay with, to be giving this education to both my girl and my boy. And I think if we decide, we are definitely going to be, we'll at least make a dent, and then the change will come.
Thank you so much for that. Pratimaji, over to you. I know this is a very unfair question to you because you could write a book on this, and we're asking you to just give us a couple of points. So with those apologies, please.
So here's what I feel. I said you need to teach and practice. You need to practice what you teach as well. So you need to give and showcase equality in everything, whether it's property, whether it's opportunity to educate themselves, it's to send them overseas, wherever they need to go for their training. You support them in all their activities, whatever makes them happy. And you make them professionals. They have to be professionals. There's no shortcut to that. And I think where values are concerned, one is very hard to teach values. You have to live the values. And I think that's the only way you can imbibe those values. And of course, you're always eternal students because every day is a learning. Today we're learning, right? From COVID and everything that's happened, you've reorganized yourself, you've reset your clock. So I think you need to practice what we are teaching our kids. That's very critical.
Thank you so much. I think we're out of time. Please look at the chat window. I have pasted the link to join IWN. Brilliant organization. Any woman can join. You don't have to be part of a family business or a big company. If you are a professional woman doing something interesting, it's a fantastic support organization all across the country. Divya and Priyanka have been former chairs of the Delhi chapter. They've done a brilliant job. We have a new leadership team with Bhavna and Rinki who have taken over this year, and they could use all your help and support as well. I have put a list of all the CII webinars. We have many more to go. And I'm so grateful that we get amazing panelists. Thank you so much, ladies, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the silver lining that we can put you all in one panel, given your busy schedule, is amazing. Please join our Telegram group. It's open to the public. We also have alternative WhatsApp admin hosting groups. We will be posting updated webinars. We will get you the full recording of this up very soon as well over there. So if you have any points you'd like to revisit, please do. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And please stay safe, stay healthy, and Jai Hind.